Hi, I'm Aaliyah Millam, founder of the food blog Premeditated Leftovers and author of the cookbook Prep Ahead Meals from Scratch. In each chapter in my cookbook, at the beginning, I have a section on how to batch cook your primary proteins. That way you can use those pre-cooked proteins to quickly and easily assemble lunches and dinners throughout the week. Today what I wanted to do is share with you how to make chickpeas, or garbanzo beans as they're sometimes called, in the pressure cooker, because that really speeds up the amount of time it takes to make chickpeas. With dried chickpeas, or with any type of dried beans, usually you have to pre-soak them, which you can use the short method, which is to do it really fast in an hour with boiling water, or most people do it overnight for 8 hours. Either way, it's quite long, and then after you're done with pre-soaking, then you have to cook them. With the pressure cooker, we can eliminate the pre-soaking step and we can cook them directly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 pound of dried chickpeas. Now if you buy them in the bulk section, 1 pound is approximately 2 1/4 cups of chickpeas. You want to make sure to remove any of the broken pieces or anything that is not a chickpea that's made its way in there. So I'm going to take 1 pound of dried chickpeas. There. I always forget how to open my pressure cooker. And take the lid off. And if you have the tray, you're going to want to remove the tray. We only use that when we're cooking meat in the pressure cooker. Then I'm going to add my 1 pound of dried chickpeas. To that, I add approximately 8 cups of water. I was making a video on how to cook rice in the pressure cooker, and I was talking about how you have to be really careful about the amount of water you use. You want it to be very precise. But with beans, you can be off by 1/4 cup or so and it won't matter. To that, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. I like to use the seasoning salt. The recipe's in the back of my cookbook in the pantry section. I just really like the flavor of that. And then I add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Once I've added all of those ingredients, I'm just going to put the lid on. And then I'm going to make sure that this is set so that it holds the pressure in rather than allowing the steam to release while it's cooking. And then I'm going to set it. I'm going to set it to high pressure. And when you cook chickpeas, they normally cook at high pressure for 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to start this at 35 minutes and then check them and see. I would rather have them be a little bit underdone and have to cook them longer than have them be mushy, because then I'd just be forced to make hummus rather than the soup that I want to use these in. So we're going to set it for 35 minutes. I wish there was a faster way to set this pressure cooker. And then I push start. And I'll be back in 35 minutes and we'll check these and see how they're doing. The timer just went off on the pressure cooker, so they've cooked for 35 minutes. So I'm going to use a pot holder and I'm going to flip the switch and use the quick release method, which will very quickly release all of the steam inside the pressure cooker. It's noisy, but it's very, very fast. And once it's done, but because it's of that hot steam, that's why you want to use your pot holder to protect your hands. As soon as this is done, we'll check and see if they have the desired tenderness to the beans, or if we have to cook them for a little bit longer. So since all of the steam has been released, it should be safe to open. So we'll just twist it and it easily releases. Now this water is still boiling hot. If you could see in there, you would still see it boiling even though I've unplugged the pressure cooker. So first I'm shaking out this water just back into the pot because I don't want it to get on me. Okay, we'll put that over there. Now I want to check them and see how they're doing, whether they seem to me like they're cooked all the way through. I'm going to pull a couple out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on here and just see if I can easily pierce them with a fork. So that is exactly how I like them, because I'm going to be using these in soups and salads. And so I want them to be just a little bit firm, but I don't want them to be too soft or too hard. So fork tender is just perfect. If I want to, I can also squish it right between my fingers. That's messy, but it's an effective way. but you have to make sure that they've at least been on the counter for just a couple seconds to cool off enough that you can get them in your fingers. Okay, now the water in beans, unlike with rice, the water is not absorbed. And I know there's still steam coming up. So I'm going to use a slotted spoon to remove most of the liquid, and then I'm going to store these in containers. Now, a can of beans has approximately 1 3/4 cups of beans in there. So I use these 2-cup containers, and then I just leave a little room at the top. And so that way it's kind of pretty close to 1 3/4 cup. So if I come upon a recipe that I want to use and it says to use a can of beans, then I can just grab one of these from the refrigerator or the freezer, wherever they're at, and add them to the recipe and know that I'm adding the right amount. Now I will put enough in the refrigerator for recipes for this week. I'm going to be adding these to minestrone soup. I have a 3-bean minestrone soup recipe in my cookbook, and I'm also going to be adding them to a Greek salad with rice, rice and bean salad. And normally I make that with white beans, but this time I'm going to use garbanzo beans or chickpeas. What do you call them? Do you call them garbanzo beans or chickpeas? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you call them. And so I'm just adding these to this my containers, and then once I have them all full, if I'm going to freeze them, I'm going to let them set on the counter for about 30 minutes to let all the steam go out of them, and that way when I freeze them, they won't be covered in ice crystals. The ones that I'm going to put in the refrigerator, I can just immediately put the lid on there and put these in the refrigerator. To get the last of the beans out, I'm going to pull this out and carefully hold this with a pot holder, and you can see all that liquid that is still in there. If you like liquid in your cans of beans, if you use it, a lot of people pour the liquid off of their beans, and it's not required to do that. You can actually just add, if you're making a soup, the liquid as well. It makes the soup a little bit muddier if you do that. If you like a clear broth, then you'll want to rinse it. But if you don't mind having a muddy broth, you can go ahead and do that. There. So to get the very last of the beans out, I had to put the pot at an angle to get those out. But as you can see, I have 4 servings of chickpeas here. And I'm going to be using 2 this week, so I'm going to put lids on them immediately and put them in the refrigerator, and then I'm going to put the rest in the freezer, and I'll use those in the next couple weeks. You can freeze your chickpeas for up to 3 months in the freezer if you wish. In my cookbook, Prep Ahead Meals from Scratch, you'll find more batch cooking techniques for a variety of different beans, for rice, beef, chicken, and pork, so that you can batch cook your primary proteins in bulk and then quickly and easily combine them to make easy meals throughout the week.